Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews Saturday Conversation Show, an interview series where I talk to entertainment personalities, content creators, and filmmakers about their work and love of film. Today's guest is Cecil Trachenburg, the man behind popular YouTube channel Good Bad Flicks, who every week takes us on a deep dive into the glorious world of genre and exploitation cinema online for what now 15, 16 years since Cecil, I guess. Good Bad Flicks has really established itself as a authoritative voice in genre cinema. And Cecil, I think it's really great that you're joining me today. And I just want to say, just first off, for everyone out there listening who loves your content, thank you so much for your hard work. We know you're a one-man band behind the scenes. So first off, thank you for the hard work, and also thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate hearing that. It's a lot of work, and sometimes it feels thankless, but stuff like that really does make a difference. So I appreciate it. And yeah, I've actually been doing this 14 years total,
Mhm.
but 9 years full time. So because when I
Very cool.
started it, it was like a side thing, and it eventually, evolved into a full time thing. So
Something that, well, you and I have a lot of things in common, movie tastes and the kind of work that we do. But something that you and I also have in common is the influence our older siblings had on us in regards to our movie choices, our movie tastes. So I had an older brother, and he had the good old video card, right? He can go to any type of video place. Here in Australia, we had Civic Video and Video Easy, and used to get all the great action films, your Van Dammes, your Stallones, your Schwarzeneggers, and some horror stuff here and there as well. And my to the naivety of my parents, used to watch all this stuff with him all the time. And from what I understand, you have an older sister who also got you into that type of movies. Is that right? Was it horror movies that you and your sister kind of bonded over?
yeah, I had an older sister, and well, I still do have an older sister, but she used to kind of torture me when I was little because I was a big chicken. I did not like horror movies at all. And she was really into Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, all that stuff.
Mm.
So a lot of times my parents would go out on a Saturday night or something, and they would leave me with my sister, and she would babysit, and she would put on Halloween or Friday the 13th or whatever, and just would kind of not force me to watch it, but we're gonna watch this, and I'd, oh, all right, and I would sit there and I would cower behind a pillow, and so eventually I started to I got over the initial shock of it. Like, I think it, because I grew up in a very religious household. My mother
Mm.
was like overbearing as far as religion was concerned. And so she had drilled a lot of this stuff into my head, that this was scary and evil and bad. And as I watched it, I saw that it really, I mean, yes, it's scary, evil, bad, blah, 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 but it's not as bad as it was in my head. Like, I was seeing this as so much worse than what I thought it was. When I was actually watching it, I kind of was like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of cool. I don't see it as this evil thing. And I got into them. And then as the years progressed, um, I got a little bit older.
Mm.
I got really friendly with these people that worked at a local video store, and it was a little mom and pop shop back in the day. And so I used to go over there and I would just rent everything. And I would just consume so much of every kind of thing that was out there. The full moon movies, horror movies, exploitation movies, just you name it. I would go in there. I was friendly with the owner, and I'd walk in and he'd be like, "Oh my God, we got this movie. It's absolutely terrible. You have to watch it." And so I'd be like, "Sold," and I'd take it home and rent, throw it into the VCR and watch it. And eventually it got to the point where I had eclipsed my sister as far as movies go. Like, I had seen way more than she was. My tastes are a lot more diverse than hers. Like, she
Mhm.
likes a lot of the classic 70s and 80s slashers and horror films, and now even the more modern stuff. She's really into oh God, what's that, the really, really what's the one with the Warrens? I'm
Oh,
totally blank.
the Conjuring movies.
And the Conjuring movies, like she's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
into like that stuff. And when I get into like martyrs and all, and she's just like, I can't do that. I can't watch those movies. And I'm like, okay, you know.
Mm.
So but yeah, it all basically is her fault. And I always let her know that that she is largely the reason why I do this now. Because if she didn't get me into horror back then, I think I eventually would have gotten into it, but I don't know if I would be into it as much as I am now, if not for her influence.
When it comes to Cecil becoming the film fan to like the person that you eventually become regarding good bad flicks, from what I understand, it was around what 2009, 2010. The internet around that time was more kind of like film criticism on the internet especially was more based on things that people didn't like, kind of like negative kind of things, negative talk. And you wanted to go the other way, right? You wanted to give it a more of a loving perspective. You wanted to talk about the films that, gave, you pleasure, where other people's might have found pain, I guess, that's all where the whole good bad flicks kind of thing came about, right? So when you started working on this, on your videos and on your content, did you know that this was going to be something that you wanted to do as I don't know, a career? Was that even an option back then, or was it something you just want to do for yourself and you just wanted to share your own opinion to the world?
Uh, I I got the notion around, like you said, 2009, because that's when the reviewerverse was really kind of exploding. The Nostalgia Critic, Angry Video Game Nerd, and like you said, yeah, it was largely negative focused, and there were so many people that were copying the Nostalgia Critic to
Hmm.
a ridiculous degree. Like they were totally missing the point. They were taking a movie and they were like, oh my God, this movie is so terrible. I'm going to trash it. And they would come up with their own character and all that. And not bashing the Nostalgia Critic. I mean, he was one of the pioneers that really, I don't know if he was necessarily the first, but he was definitely the biggest that really pioneered that. And I think that it it just kind of bugged me that there were a lot of movies that people were talking about that I didn't feel really deserved the trashing that they got. Now, are there
Right.
bad movies out there? Absolutely. Are there movies out there that are bad, that are fun, that you can kind of poke around and have a good time with? Absolutely. So I have friends like all over the country, and I had contacted them around like 2009, and they were big Angry Video Game Nerd fans and Nostalgia Critic fans. And I just said, I'm like, because I was I mean I still am, I guess. I was a professional video editor,
Hmm.
and I had wrote to them and I said, if I was to start doing videos where I talked about movies that I enjoyed, movies that maybe not a lot of people have heard of, maybe stuff that I would recommend, stuff that got a bad rap, would you be interested? And they were like, yeah. So initially, I started on a Blip TV, which
Hmm.
was a competitor to YouTube back in 2009, and they were coming along. They were pretty big, not as big as YouTube, but they were still up and coming, and they were really the only even remotely close competitor. So I
Hmm.
started uploading my stuff over on Blip, and it after a couple of weeks of doing it, I was having fun, and they were enjoying it. And I started to notice every week that I would put a new video up, I would have comments from people who I didn't know. And initially, it was just my friends that were watching it, and then people randomly were finding it and were enjoying it and telling me how much they liked it. And that's when I started to think that I might be onto something. Now, of course, the dream was always to be able to do it for a living. I didn't
Absolutely. Yep.
expect that I would be able to do it for a living. Actually, I was doing it essentially for free for years. I was doing it on Blip, and Blip had an ad sharing thing like YouTube, but it was a much smaller one. So I don't remember exactly how long, but I think it was probably about 3 years of just doing it for nothing.
Yeah.
And I got a check for $25. So
Hmm.
that was, and then in 2014, I had my WTF happened to movie posters video that I did that went viral,
Yep.
and that blew up huge. Like I think at the time I had uh, maybe 20,000 subscribers or something, and that
Hmm.
blew up, and I took off from there. And then in 2015, that was when I was like, okay, I might be able, oh god, I didn't even say, in 20 I started in 2010 on Blip, and then in 2011 was when I moved over to YouTube,
Hmm.
because I could see that Blip was going out of business, which they eventually
Right.
did, I think, in 2012. But I went over to YouTube in 2011, and I was cross posting on Blip and YouTube, but I started really getting a lot more traction on YouTube. And I'm glad that I did, because, like I said, in 2014 was when I went viral and on YouTube. And 2015, I got laid off from my job that I was working full time at.
Hmm.
And I had told my wife, I was like, look, the channel is going really good. I've got a few months of severance pay. I really think I could make this work. I could start doing this full time. And she was like, okay, cool. And I started doing it full time. I started the Patreon, thankfully Patreon came out, and
Hmm.
I had been doing it full time ever since April, no, June of 2015.
So
So coming
around
up
that
on the 10-year
time,
anniversary.
which is really cool, by the way. I'm sure, and I'm sure that the 10 years is going to be huge for you. And I imagine that maybe you're going to do some stuff you haven't done before, and dive into some of your, who knows, maybe dive into some of those older Blip TV videos and show us a little bit of the early days of the Good Bad Flicks experience. Around that time, when you'd go full time, I noticed, I was just looking, when I was looking, doing my research, looking at videos, I think it was around 8 years ago. That's when I noticed the thumbnail game went up quite a bit to where it was before. You had the logo, you had thumbnails. How long did it take you to A, think of a logo, and number two, think of the right thumbnails for your content? Because that could be really tricky for YouTube creators.
I got really lucky. Around 2015, I was talking to there was a website called The Escapist,
Hmm.
and I was talking to the guy who was running it at the time, and they had just lost their movie guy, and I had met uh the boss of the Escapist at PAX, the Penny Arcade Expo, earlier that year, and I was chatting with them, and I was like, "Hey, I would really love to work with you guys." Um, and then what happened was they had lost their movie guy, so I had contacted them again and was like, "Hey, let's do something together." And they were like, "Absolutely." So what we did was we worked out a deal where I would do a video for them, and they would get a week exclusivity of it on their website before it would go to my YouTube channel. And I they were like, we want to kind of up your game a little bit. So they said, send us your current like thumbnails stuff and all that, and we'll give it to one of our artists, and they'll make they'll make a better template for you. And
Yep.
so I gave them the font and everything that I worked for, or everything that I was previously using, and then an actual like professional artist went in and they did like the logo that you see it now, with the all the stuff in the background, and the way the Good Bad Flicks has like um the tilt on it. And because that's the thing, like I try to explain like to some people, it's the unfortunate notion of the internet now. People automatically assume that if you're doing YouTube full time, that obviously you have a team of people working for you, and researchers and editors, and I'm just a one man band, and I am a very good video editor, but I'm not the greatest artist.
Hmm.
So I am very glad that they were able to do that for me, and they gave me the template, and I worked with them for about 2 years before they had massive layoffs. But by that point, I was doing much better, so I didn't really need the freelancing as bad as I did in the beginning. But so they gave me that logo, and I've just been using that ever since, and that's kind of become my stamp. It's much more recognizable. It's much more professional. It just looks really nice.
Also, the other thing I noticed as well around that time is that up to that point, you had various kind of opening credits. The one you had for a long time was like a collage of different kind of movie scenes and such. But then that changed as well. The you had and you also had kind of like a theme song as well, and it was the band Psycho Stick that put that theme song together for you. Where did you find about them, and what was it like trying to put together a theme for Good Bad Flicks? Because I imagine that would have been like something else that would have been like really kind of like cool to really stumble upon and then get onto your videos, because I think everyone out there who does YouTube stuff, I think they don't really realize how important it is to kind of have that opening kind of like music kind of portion of your videos as well.
Uh, Psycho Stick, they've become great friends over the years. It was very funny. It was another completely awesome, bit of luck on my part. One day I had, because uh I had XM radio, and I used to listen to Liquid Metal, which was their metal channel. And every day I would drive home and I would have that Liquid Metal on, and they forever they were playing Beer by Psycho Stick. And I just thought it was a really funny song and I liked it a lot. And then one day I'm working and I get an email from Murph, who is the manager of Psycho Stick. And he's like, hey, I want to let you know, I don't know if you know who we are. We're the band, blah, blah. We do really awesome, fun, like parody songs. And we love your work. We love bad movies. And we just kind of struck up a conversation and it turned into a friendship. And they had introduced me to this movie called Uninvited. That was the cat inside of a cat movie from Graydon Clark. And we were joking around and whatnot. And they wanted to do something with me. So they did the intro song for that, which was a little 30-second bit. And I had my friend Eric do like the animation for it. And we did that. It was a really big hit. They actually did another song. They did an intro for Anonymous Rex. And we were going to do kind of another crossover for that, but it just never happened. So I was thinking about how I needed my own intro song, but it needed to be short because the internet, they have patience for some things, but not for others. And I know myself too, if I'm watching a video and there's an overlong intro, I'm like, can we get to it? So I was like, look, if you can do a like really quick and to the point thing. And about a week later, they came back to me with the song as it was. It was a little 7-second thing. And I was like, perfect. So I
Yeah.
did that. I had my friend Eric take my intro thumbnail and sort of animated a little bit with the burn effect and all that, and it fit together perfectly. And I've been using it ever since. And every year there is this event out here in Pennsylvania called Too Many Games. And every year Psycho Stick comes out and they're one of the bands that plays there. It's like the Penny Arcade Expo, but it's smaller. Not
Hmm.
much smaller though. It's been growing a lot over the years. Like Penny Arcade Expo is huge. It's like 70,000 people. I think this is more like 30,000, which is nothing to
Okay.
sneeze at. But so they come out every year. And so every year I go out to the event and I hang out with them for a bit and say hi. And they're a great bunch of dudes. I'm really happy. I still want to bug them. I want to do the Anonymous Rex video with them. Like they were gonna inject some of their humor into it, but it just never happened because they've been so busy. And then COVID happened, and then everything kind of went off off the rails. But yeah, so I've been friends with those guys ever since.
Please support Matt's movie reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. I'm going to move on now to a part of my Saturday conversation discussion where I play a game called Choose Between Two. So, Cecil, pretty much the how it goes is I'm going to give you two options and you're going to choose the one, and I just want you to elaborate a bit about your choice. So, are you ready to play the game?
Sure.
All right, first off, better video game movie, Silent Hill or Mortal Kombat?
Silent Hill. I absolutely love it. Silent Hill is one of my all-time favorite video games. I've done numerous videos about the movie, about the video game. I did that ridiculously in-depth video where I was talking about all the different references in Silent Hill. It is just a magnificent thing. I love it dearly. I've loved it ever since I first played it, and I'm hoping at some point we get a remastering of it, because I know we got the Shattered Memories pseudo remake that came
Right.
out while ago, which was cool, but it wasn't really the first game. I would just love it if they would take the first game and just, make it like what Capcom did with Resident Evil. They just took it and gave it a really nice new coat of paint and made a few minor changes, but overall it was still kind of the same thing. And I love it, and I will always stand it. Now the thing is, Mortal Kombat's awesome. Like I love Mortal Kombat 2, but Silent Hill is just a lot more special to me.
Um, the better bad comic book movie, The Punisher starring Dolph Lundgren or Catwoman starring Halle Berry?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go with the Punisher. I love the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. There's actually a
So do I.
documentary coming out on that. Sometime I believe it's supposed to be sometime this year. But yeah, I think it's great. The only I don't want to say bad, but the only thing missing from it is he doesn't have the skull T-shirt. But
Right.
otherwise, it really just it feels right on as far as a Punisher movie. Dolph Lundgren does such a good job with it. It
Yep.
is insanely over the top violent. It's very cool. I think Catwoman is a great unintentional comedy.
Hmm.
But The Punisher is just a legitimately fun, entertaining, over the top, violent comic book movie.
Who had the better mullet? Brian Bosworth in Stone Cold or Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon?
I had a feeling you were going to say Brian Bosworth for Stone Cold. Absolutely the Boz in Stone Cold. That was a legendary mullet.
Okay, when you go to the cinema and you sit down, do you rather have popcorn or candy?
Um, Usually I'd say popcorn. Because the theater candy is kind of spotty.
Mhm.
Um, and popcorn's one of those things where you don't even realize it. You'll get a bucket and you're just sitting there chomping away as you're watching the movie. Next thing you know,
I
you've
know.
somehow eaten an entire pound of popcorn.
Yeah.
So, and then you need you need one of those gallon drinks to wash it down. But yeah, the problem is a lot of the candies that I like, well, I can't eat a lot of them anymore because I have like a variation of celiac, which really
Mhm.
sucks. So, but I used to love eating like Twix bars and all that. And those are the candy bars that they don't have at the theater. They have M&Ms and stuff, and they're fun. I actually liked when theaters branched out a little bit with regular food. Well, maybe
Mhm.
not regular food, like snacky food. They'd have the little
Mhm.
pretzel bites and that kind of stuff. Uh, they were good. So I think, but if I had to, but going back and forth between candy and popcorn, I'll go popcorn.
Last one, physical media or streaming?
Physical.
Mhm.
I love the convenience of streaming. I will never say that streaming does not have its place. Streaming is awesome, but the problem with streaming is that it's fleeting. You could be halfway through a TV series and they lose the license, and well, you won't be finishing that ever.
Yeah.
Whereas physical media, you own it, and you have it. And if you want to rip it and uh, put it on your home server or something, then you can build your own streaming service, so to speak. But even still, it's like there's so many times where my son will want to watch a movie and it won't be available streaming anymore. I'll be like, oh, look, I just so happen to have the Blu-ray or the DVD or what have you. So streaming is very convenient and I like it a lot, but physical all day, every day.
Going back to our questions, as I said at the start of our discussion, you are a one-man band, and I know exactly where you're coming from with that. I'm the same with my stuff. I like to write my own stuff. I want to edit my own stuff. It comes down to number one, I just like working on my own, and number two, I don't really trust other people to kind of take my stuff and do things with it, right? Um, it does take some time though to get, things on YouTube because of that. When it comes to yourself, Cecil, when it comes to something like, say, the exploring videos, how long does it take you to research, to narrate, to edit? What is the length of time does it take to get an exploring series video up on your YouTube channel? I'm really curious about the process of that.
Essentially forever. They take they vary. Some of them come together very quickly, and the people that I'm talking to will give me, all the info. They're easy to get a hold of. I If I have any corrections, I go back, I get answers right away. It's awesome. Other ones, they're finding the people that work on the film. It's pulling teeth. A lot of times, if I can get a hold of the director or whoever I'm trying to get a hold of that worked on the film, if I can get a hold of them directly, I
Hmm.
can usually get very fast responses, really good, solid information. But if ever there's somebody who I have to go through their agent, that's when things really start to drag, because then I have to talk to the agent before I can talk to
Hmm.
them. And then when I do talk to them, a lot of times I'm like limited, and then they still want to talk, but then they it makes it more complicated and it's annoying. And a lot of times too, if like there was one exploring video that I was working on, and I don't want to say who, I don't want to bash the director, but um I was talking to them and I was going through their agent, and I would get a hold of them, and we had done, like, I had gotten like basically half the information that I needed.
Hmm.
And I had gotten back to them and I said, look, here's, I have more questions I had to ask. And I never heard from them again. And
Hmm.
I couldn't understand. I wrote back, I'm like, hey, I'm still trying to get a hold of you. I want to do this. And just nothing. But then about a year later, the movie that I was talking to them about got a restoration and was put on Blu-ray, and they had a commentary and all that. And I was like, oh, probably what happened was they struck up a deal and they weren't allowed to talk about it anymore.
Right.
And so I was annoyed because all they had to do was just tell me, hey, uh we can't talk about this anymore. And I would have been like, okay, that's fine. And would have just dropped it. But I didn't know. So I was like, did something happen? Um, so so yeah, that kind of sucks. So there's a every now and then there'll be an exploring video that just for whatever reason will fall apart and it just won't come together. But in general, um, I would say the average exploring video will take about 3 to 6 months
Hmm.
of from when I start working on it and researching it and seeing who I can get a hold of and talking to the people. And um like there's some, like the black hole video that I did, where pretty much everybody that was involved in that has passed on. So
Hmm.
everything that I got for that was all archival. It was all old news stories and stuff. It was just compiling all that together and putting it together as far as one video. But when possible, I like to talk to the people that worked on it, because I find you'll get the best stories that way, and you'll get the most honesty, especially because a lot of old archival interview stuff, some of it is a little um, fluffy. Let's say
Hmm.
they they before the movie comes out, they wax, oh, this is movie, I'm so proud of this, and then it came out, and then it bombs, and then they talk about how much they hated it,
Right.
and then they talk about the so you'll get more of the story of what really happened after it comes out and after it's been out for a while, talking directly to the people involved. There was, I think, the longest one I ever worked on. And this was not beginning to end, but this was when I first started working on it until I finally was able to release it, was my Nothing But Trouble video.
Hmm.
That took 6 years
Wow.
of trying to get a hold of people and just not getting any response. I mean, I'm not going to get a hold of Dan Aykroyd. I would love to talk to Dan Aykroyd. The funny thing is, if I ever get a hold of Dan Aykroyd, I would love to talk to him about aliens and stuff. But
Right.
but I would also like to talk to him about this movie, but it didn't happen. So I ended up like contacting people, didn't get a hold of him. I finally got talked to one guy who was pretty high up in the pipeline of the movie, and he gave me a ton of information. It was awesome. And that led to some other interviews, and I put out the video, and I thought it was really good. But that took a really long time to get together, just because there were so many people that worked on it that they just didn't want to talk about it because not because they like a lot of people that did talk about it loved working on the film. It just was unfortunate, black eye on their career. But working on it at the time, they had so much freedom and just they could do it was just they could go as mad as they wanted to and have a lot of fun with it. So that one was a long time coming, but I'm glad I was able to do that. And then the one I did on Afflicted, that came out 2022, I think, or maybe 20. No, I think it might have been 2023. Yeah, it was last year. That one took a while because I could not get a hold of the directors at all.
Mhm.
Every email that I got of them went nowhere. And finally, one day I was talking about it in another video, and I had a guy who was a fan who was following me who had contacted me and said, hey, I have a friend of mine who is working on something right now with Cliff and Derek. I can get you in touch with him, and he can should be able to get you in touch with them. And so he got me in touch with them. I talked to them and I was like, dudes, I've been trying to get a hold of you since 2018. And they're both Canadian. So oh, we're so sorry. Like, we had no idea. And I'm like, how would you?
Mm.
So it was awesome. They gave me a ton of info. And that video came together very quickly. That video came together probably in about 2 months from me talking to them and putting the video out because they were so helpful as far as getting me all the information I needed and everything. And I also wanted to get it out for October because it was, for Halloween.
Yes.
So being a horror movie, and I really wanted to get it out there, and I was glad. So I think that was the fastest I ever got one out, was like 2 months.
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. I want to move on to a different game now. This is pretty much called rapid fire questions. So I'm going to throw some questions to you as quickly as you can. Tell me your answer. If you want to abbreviate, you can go ahead and do so. Are you
Okay,
ready to play this one?
sure.
Okay. So I know Friday the 13th is your favorite horror franchise, but what's your favorite movie within that horror franchise?
Seven. I absolutely love Seven.
Which one's seven
I
again?
met
Refresh
Kane
my
Hodder.
memory.
That was the one with, it was basically Jason versus Carrie, where the girl
Right.
had like the telekinetic powers, and I actually
Yep.
met Kane Hodder and Lar Park Lincoln, and I got them to sign the poster. I got Kane to sign the Jason side, and Lar to sign the her side. And
Nice.
yeah, I've always been a big fan of that one.
I know Kevin Smith is a huge influence on you. What's your favorite Kevin Smith movie?
Um, I'm gonna have to go with Clerks because that was the first Kevin Smith movie, and that was the movie that influenced me back in the day where I was looking at what I was going to do with my life, and I was thinking about getting into movies. I wanted to do radio. I wanted to do movies. I just wanted to do some kind of entertainment. And seeing that rise of independent filmmakers, seeing a guy like Kevin who just got up off his ass and decided to make something.
Mm,
He and at the time, it felt very much like me and my friends. Like
mm.
when a lot of me and my friends would sit around and would make fun of each other and talk movies and talk very rapid fire like the way that his characters talked within the movie, and it hit home with me. It was really special, and I've liked uh most of his stuff after that, but Clerks I think was the one that resonates with me the most.
I also know that John Carpenter is your favorite director. So what's your favorite movie of his?
John Carpenter, I adore him. I it might be a little cliche. It's kind of hard to not. I would definitely go with The Thing. The Thing is
Hmm.
such an amazing film. I love it to bits. It is incredible. I'm actually working the company that I work with, in Creator VC that does the In Search of movies. They did In Search of Darkness, In Search
Yeah,
of
they're doing the
uh,
thing expanded, right?
they're doing The Thing expanded.
Yeah.
So yeah, because we developed a really good relationship with John, and so getting with him and getting with all the other people that have been involved and doing that is going to be fantastic. I'm super excited with that. So yeah, The Thing is huge with me, and I would go. This is probably going to be a little bit of a surprise with you though. If I had to go with a number two, Starman.
No,
I think
nice.
Starman is drastically underappreciated. That movie, the first time I showed it to my wife, she started crying. It was
Yeah.
just, she's like, it's so beautiful. It's such a good movie. And I love his horror stuff, but I really would have loved it if he would have had the opportunity to do some more movies like Starman, some more movies where he kind of is expanding his horizons a little bit and isn't stuck really doing the horror. And I know he loved doing horror. He did some fantastic horror, but
Yeah.
I just think over the years it would have been great if he would have been able to do at least one other one along those lines.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I know this is going to be heresy, but I love pineapple on pizza. So I'm
Mm.
probably going to lose subscribers over it, I'm sure. But yeah, I love pineapple on pizza. Pineapple, well, it's got to be
I,
pineapple and either bacon or Canadian bacon.
it's amazing how when I ask this question, it's right down the middle. There's no, maybe it's like yes or no. And there's no, middle ground here there whatsoever. It's like it's not like, oh, maybe on a Wednesday, no, not going to happen. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of right now. It's kind of I'd say around 70-30 to the no so far. But yeah, it's a question that I'd like to ask. And yes, and that you're incorrect, by the way. The answer is no. Okay, so last one. Last one. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
uh yeah, I'm there's that whole thing where it takes place, or it does have a lot of Christmas elements into
Right.
it. And I think if you want it to be a Christmas movie, if you want to show it at Christmas, then go ahead and show it at Christmas. I mean, Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So it's I think that sure, it's a movie that revolves around Christmas, and it's just about as much Christmas as any of the Hallmark Channel movies that revolve around Christmas. So why not? I think if you want it to be a Christmas movie, then it's a Christmas movie.
Final question, because I know you have to go soon. Okay, so the YouTube experience for you, there's one thing where you're a creator, it's another thing where you have to approach YouTube as a business person, right? Because once you start going full time with it, Cecil, you know that you're putting all your chips on the table here. You're going full time. You're going to make it work as a business, on a business side. If you can go back to that time where you decided to go full time YouTube, and you could give yourself advice from like 10 years ago, when you were like you had that time off from work, you were laid off, you had that severance pay, you had those couple months. What advice would you give that Cecil back then in regards to making the business opportunities on YouTube work the best to your favor?
I probably would have taken some more sponsorship deals back then. I would tell myself to not. Now, granted, uh, I I'm very finicky when it comes to sponsorship deals. I only
Yeah,
take them if it's something that I believe in. So, like, I've done sponsor deals with Shutter and Lionsgate and that kind of like companies that I like and companies that it makes sense.
yeah,
But I get a lot of offers from app companies and stuff. Oh, plug this app game or what. And I'm like, no, I'm never going to do that. But I think back in the day, I did pass on some pretty good opportunities that I should have jumped on. That might have helped when in some of the lean months. But I would probably do that. I would probably have yelled at myself to do a little bit more as far as pumping out content because um, it's gotten more complicated over the years. Now I'm older, I'm a father, and even though I do this full time, uh, it's just having a child and it just makes it more complicated. Whereas back in the
yes,
day, it was just me and my wife, and I had a lot more free time, so I could I think I should have focused a little bit more and made some more videos back then. Instead of like I wasn't lazy, but I just think that I look at all the time that I had back then where I think of how I was playing a video game instead of maybe streaming that video game or something. I could
right.
have done that, and it might have made my brand a little bit bigger. It's all the little things that you don't think of at the time, and then years go by, and you're like, oh, probably should have done that. But so
Right.
yeah, I think I would go back in time and yell at myself and say, get a little bit more active before the kid comes, and then you lose all time.
Oh yes, there is no such thing as spare time when you. I got two boys myself, so I know. Like whatever
Oh
you've
God,
got
you have
spare time,
two.
yeah, yeah, that's right. They went gremlins on me. So so whenever whatever spare time you think you have, it's not there anymore. So a lot of late nights and early mornings for myself to get my stuff up there. But I understand totally where you're coming from. I think it's really important that people understand that time is fleeting, and you have to, and before you know it, you're going to be like me, you're going to be 43 or what have you, and then the things that you wish you could have done, you can't. But however, the cool thing is you still have time now to do things, and Cecil, I thank you for your time today. I know you're a very busy man, and it's so great that you could take your time out and talk to me about your journey as a YouTuber and as a content creator and a lover of movies. And for everyone out there, Good Bad Flicks. If you're not subscribed to Good Bad Flicks, I don't know why the hell you're not. Go out there and do it right now. Go to Good Bad Flicks over at YouTube. I'll have the links also in my notes underneath here on my YouTube channel for you to check it out because I absolutely love what you've done, Cecil, over the years. And still to this day, I'm watching things you're recommending. Only last night, I was watching your couple of nights ago, I watched one of your five forgotten 90s horror movies, and High Flyer was one of the things you recommended. I was watching it last night and
Ah,
absolutely loved it.
isn't that
So
great?
it's so awesome. And it's so great. You know what I love about your channel? And by in turn things like afterwards I'll come from that, which things like In Search of Darkness and stuff, is that there's such a universe of movies that I haven't heard of. No matter how many movies I've watched, it's like probably 100 I haven't heard of. And when I watch Good Bad Flicks and I check out the recommendations that you have and such, it's just so good to be able to tap into movies that you know passed me by somehow, and to able to watch them now. I'm just like, Cecil, you're a legend. Thank you very much for that one because it was just awesome. I really enjoyed Night Flyer. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time again today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, pleasure's all mine, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will say it is really neat to be able to introduce people to so many different films because it was one of the reasons why I started doing the Five Forgotten videos because they're movies that I would eventually like to do fuller videos on, but to kind of get a blast out there. Hey, here's a couple of movies that are really cool that you should check out. Blah blah
Mm.
blah, and that way it gives people just a little bit of a flavor. And if it's something like you said, you saw the Night Flyer and hey, that sounds cool, and then you tracked it down and watched it and liked it. So it's really neat that way. And one of the things that's funny is I have some people that will watch the videos to see how many of them that they know. And they're like, oh, you know, I knew this one. You should have put this one on there. And then I got other people that will watch it for the ones that they don't know. And they get really excited because, like you, they say, oh, well, this is great. Now I have a bunch of stuff to go watch.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. And I always appreciate that. And I occasionally will get contacted by somebody that worked on whatever movie or TV show that I'm talking about. They say, hey, thank you so much. I wrote that 20 years ago, or I directed that, and I appreciate you just saying something really kind about it. And it's neat. So I really I love that. I'm talking to the fans, and I'm talking to the people, the creators. So, but anyway, but thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.